Hi, I'm glad you stopped by. This is part number 4 of our look at the word to the little flock, and we are actually going to have a 5th one because I divided it up differently from when I started. So this is Crosier's last article, The Time of Jacob's Trouble, and it is quite short, but I have a few comments in it, and then we're going to take a look at James White's comments on Revelation 14. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. It appears evident from the reading of these things that the believers were certain the end of the world was upon them. Thus it is reflected in their choice of words. Today we look back 177 years, and true believers know that Christ's coming is so very near. Upon reading this again, I was impressed to look up the text in Jeremiah. This chapter is very interesting as we look into our future. Then, reviewing the conditions transpiring around us, I fell to meditating on the facts about a world united in gaining control of the populace. Having the vantage point of looking back from our present used to be future, certain things in the Bible suddenly stood out as if in bold text. These things will be shared later, God willing, for now it's clear that much of the prophecies deal with our day, making the text of 1 Corinthians 10:11 so much more clear. Now all these things happened unto them for ensamples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. By comparing Genesis 50:32 with Jeremiah 30, verse 7, and the prophecy of Obadiah, we may see that Jacob represents believers and Esau represents unbelievers. I doubt not, but these two characters will be brought out and clearly seen in the closing strife with the image beast, which is just before us. Again, we remember that in 1847, the believers knew Christ was coming at any time, immediately soon. And from our present vantage point, it seems certain that Esau represents the SDA Church, for they have forsaken their birthright, as did Esau. And this is a typo in the original text. It has a B instead of an R. See Revelation 13:11-18. Jacob's trouble was when the messengers returning to him said, We came to thy brother Esau, and he also cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. The true saints will be brought into a similar situation at the time of the fulfillment of Revelation 13:11-18. We know this to be the case. God has confirmed such in the 1858 Great Controversy, pages 201-204. Not that the saints will be killed, for then none would remain till the change. But and this change, I've kind of stumbled over that a little bit and realized it meant the resurrection. So read that again. Not that the saints will be killed, for then none would remain till the change. But to fulfill this prophecy, a decree must go forth to kill the saints, which will cause fear and distress. When Jacob was troubled, he wrestled with the angels till the breaking of the day. In the last closing strife with the image beast, when a decree goes forth that as many as will not worship the image of the beast shall be killed, the saints will cry day and night and be delivered by the voice of God. Won't that be something to hear? I've just amazing contemplating this events here. Then the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it. Obadiah, the 18th verse. This amazing prophecy in Obadiah, here quoted by Crosier, seems to have a more correct application in the loud cry, which also seems to be the time of the 6 men of Ezekiel 9 going forth, doing God's bidding, the slaughter being spiritual, not physical. The physical takes place at the brightness of his coming. I have not been able to see anything in our past and present history which answers to Jacob's trouble and the day and night cry of the elect. I have been astonished at some of our brethren, while they have urged us to go about the work of crying day and night for deliverance. Not long since I was in a meeting where the sentiment prevailed that if all would then go about the work, they might pray Christ down to the earth in 24 hours. It is clear that when the time comes for this cry, that the elect will have the spirit of prayer poured on them. And I will pour out upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplication, and so forth. And the land shall mourn, every family apart, the family of the house of David apart, and their wives apart. When Jesus has finished his work in the heavenly sanctuary and comes out upon the great white cloud with his sharp sickle, then will be the time for the day and night cry, which is represented by the angels crying to Jesus to thrust in his sharp sickle and reap. I am astonished at how correct Crosier was with his understanding of the verse just quoted. It is exactly correct. We will be proving this point in the 5th part of this little series on A Word to the Little Flock. The desire and prayer of every pure soul is, Thy kingdom come, but the special morning praying time of the saints is evidently yet to come. Correct again, for the time of Jacob's trouble is yet future, after the close of probation. And now James White's thoughts on Revelation 14. The 13th chapter of Revelation and the first 5 verses of the 14th is one connected chain of past, present, and future events, down to the complete redemption of the 144,000. Then the 6th verse commences another chain of events which carry us down through the history of God's people in this mortal state. John had a view of the beast and his image as recorded in chapter 13, and how natural it would be for him to view on a little farther and see the 144,000 who had gotten the victory over the beast and over his image, standing on Mount Zion with the Lamb, and so forth, as recorded in chapter 4, 1-5. So I think the division should be between the 5th and 6th verses of the 14th chapter, and the 6th verse commences a series of events relative to the successive messages of Holy Advent truth. All classes of Second Advent believers agree that the angel brought to view in the 6th and 7th verses of this chapter represents the Advent message to the church and world. If this is true, then all 5 of the angels brought to view in this chapter represent 5 distinct messages prior to the Advent, or we are left without a rule to interpret this chapter. Actually, it appears more correct that the 5th angel of Revelation 14 is like the 4th, in that angel's message is a cry to Christ to reap the harvest of grapes, a figure of the wicked. This 5th angel, this is true because the grapes are to be gathered and cast into the winepress of the wrath of God, because none of the wicked are resurrected at the second coming of Christ, and many, if not most, of the wicked have been destroyed by the 7 last plagues. There would be few of the wicked to harvest. This places the event of the 5th angel at the end of the 1,000 years, when all the grapes will be resurrected and prepared to be fully ripe for the great winepress. The work of the 2nd angel was to show to the Advent host that Babylon had fallen, and as a large portion of them did not learn this fact until the power of the midnight cry waked them up, just in time for them to make their escape from the churches before the 10th day came on. It follows that the 2nd angel brought us to the 7th month, 1844. The 3rd angel's message was, and still is, a warning to the saints to hold fast and not go back, and receive the marks which the virgin band got rid of during the 2nd angel's cry. And has not the true message for God's people since the 7th month, 1844, been just such a warning? It certainly has. I cannot agree with those who make 2 messages of the cry, Babylon the Great is fallen, and the voice, come out of her, my people, for every sermon that was printed or preached on this subject contained them both in one message. The 12th verse reads, Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God, etc. Where did you see them, John? Why, here, during this 3rd angel. As the patient waiting time has been since the 7th month, 1844, and as the class that keep the Sabbath and so forth have appeared since that time, it is plain that we live in the time of the 3rd angel's message. The last 2 angels are messages of prayer. We shall no doubt better understand them at the time of their fulfillment. And I believe we are about there for that 4th angel. In this time, we need to be examining ourselves and get all our sins blotted out of the book. God bless your study.